Hello there, coming up in the Saturday Night Showdown. Shocking footage went viral this week of a man hitting a Nandos waitress in the face with a plate in front of the man's wife and child. The victim says police didn't investigate it. Well, they're probably too busy locking people up for years for sharing memes or shouting at police dogs. And Chechen warlord Ramzan Kadyrov might not be the first name that springs to mind when you think of environmentally friendly driving, but he claims Elon Musk sent him a Tesla. Kadyrov is a close ally of Putin and has mounted the Cybertruck with a machine gun and says he'll send it to the front line. Elon has denied any involvement, and I believe him. Is this person a woman? A court has ruled that the female-only app Giggle for Girls discriminated against this fine-looking lady by denying access. Roxanne Tickle, which is the woman on screen in front of you, was born male, but now identifies as a woman, even if her hairline doesn't. I just wish Roxanne Tickle had picked the name Tess instead. This is your Saturday Night Showdown. Discussing all these topics and more with me are my brilliant panel joining me tonight. What an impressive pair. We've got broadcaster and influencer Precious Muir and the lawyer, entertainer and international playboy Andrew Eborn, who's just made a watch appear from flame. That would get you arrested if you're in a riot. Thank you, Tatiana, and welcome to the Saturday Night Showdown. A shocking video went viral this week showing a man hitting a Nandos waitress in the face with a plate in front of his wife and child. Take a look at this. Apparently, this happened back in March. I mean, you'd think the police would be right on it. You can see there, the man's hit the waitress in the face and now he's leaving with his wife and child. The wife seems to go to protect the child. It makes you wonder what goes on behind closed doors. But the police don't seem to have done anything. It's strange. After all, they can arrest and sentence someone in 24 hours for shouting in a riot or sharing a Facebook post. But the victim, the Nandos waitress, posted on X. The police were present at the time. I reported it to them, and they let him go without taking his details or checking the CCTV. I filed a complaint against the officers, and their supervisor got back to me and essentially said, they're humans and made a mistake. So even though the police were present, they didn't catch the man, even though it would have been easy to follow up on it because they had his details, they interviewed him right there. And also, even if they didn't, you could get the details from the card payment system because you pay upfront in Nandos. Yes, I do eat there. Will Yvette Cooper do anything about this? She's pledged to treat extreme misogyny the same as terrorism, although she might be afraid of using that term around this man for fear of being called Islamophobic. I'm joined now by Andrew Eborn. And Andrew, do you think the police have got their priorities right? Because I've just seen, you know, day after day, week after week, over the past couple of weeks, they've been absolutely hammering anybody who's anywhere near or, you know, tweeted anything that could be perceived as inflammatory about riots.
It's very clear. Trust comes in on foot and leaves on horseback, and trust in the police is at an all-time low because of incidents like this. You have the appalling thing. This has only come to light. It was in March. We're now in, you know, we're virtually in September. Absolute nonsense. As always, people rush in to judge things, as we had about Manchester Airport, and videos got drip-fed, but I can see no context where this would ever be justified. And the point about justice, it's supposed to be blind. It doesn't matter what colour, what creed, what religion, and so on and so forth. The way that you get trust back is to make sure it's enforced universally, and they need to act quickly, and they need to act now. They're still appealing. Looking at the latest report, and I checked just before we came on air, they're still reporting people to advise about this person. No reason at all.
There is no reason that can justify his action doing that. He assaulted a complete stranger. Right? So if he had put his hands on his wife, what would have been the reaction from the police? We need to understand what's going on here.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, if he had just turned around and slapped his wife in Nandos, would they have arrested him?
No.
We don't know. We don't understand what's going
Police
on.
now need to listen to this programme because everybody's been calling them out on this, and I've been on a number of shows talking about this incident. They still haven't come forward and said, this is what we're doing. So if they want to get justice seen to be done, they need to do something now. Maybe before the end of the programme, we can have an update from the police. There's the action call.
That would be nice to hear. And what is happening with our police? We're seeing people linked to the riots arrested and given lengthy sentences for shouting posting or for sharing social media posts. Obviously, physical violence is deplorable, as is inciting violence. But some of these headlines that I've seen over the past week are verging on the ridiculous. Rioter who shouted in a police dog's face, jailed for 20 months. I mean, blimey, you can get jail time for telling a police dog to get off the couch now. Man, 81, charged after city centre protest. I mean, British people have asked the government, can you do something to stop little kids being stabbed? And the government has said, the best thing I can do is lock up your granddad. A teenager who waved an England flag near North Yorkshire Islamic Centre jailed. I mean, it seems like the only flag you're not allowed to wave in England is the England flag. Loyalist D. Stitt arrested on return from Spanish family holiday over stop spread of evil Islam post. And I've seen that same sentiment expressed by feminist protesters in Iran, where the Islamic theocracy punishes them and forces them to cover up. And when they don't, they get attacked by the police and put in jail. And when people say the same thing in Iran, they get punished in a similar way with jail time. The police also seem to be revelling in the public humiliation of people suspected of taking part in the riots. This footage right now is from Merseyside police, who filmed the arrest of Thomas Whitehead as he stepped off the plane after his holiday for his involvement in the disorder in Southport. We can't afford extra police officers to investigate burglaries or women getting hit in the face in Nandos, apparently, but we can afford film crews. The police shared this man's street address, which seems unnecessary and almost dangerous in such a febrile atmosphere, with inflammatory hoaxes being spread, sometimes even by Labour MPs, telling Muslims that they're under attack from violent far-right thugs. With the husband in jail, who's there to protect his wife and children from any retribution? I mean, I believe that violence should be treated harshly, but waving a flag, shouting at a dog, an 81-year-old? This seems heavy-handed, Andrew. I mean, I'm concerned that due process isn't always being followed.
You're absolutely right. And go back to what I said beforehand. Trust comes in on foot and leaves on horseback. Yeah. We need to look at this. Also, the media has a responsibility, because some of the headlines don't tell the full story. Yeah. So the thing about shouting at a police dog, I looked at this case, and actually it wasn't just shouting at a police dog. There was incitement, and there were basically abuse of other people at the scene and so on and so forth. It's rather like saying the person was wearing trainers. We arrested them, they got 20 months for that. It wasn't. It was shouting at a police dog. They were also intimidating, incitement, and so on and so forth.
But then why is the shouting at a police dog, brought up in court? Why is that cited as a reason?
You're absolutely right, but it's the media focused on that, and this is my point on the report: is that in the media, we have a responsibility not to inflame the situation. There were all sorts of incidents which came up in the court, turning around and saying this is what this particular person was accused of. They should have said it was about this sort of stuff, intimidation of individuals. The fact that they cited the police dog and that sort of thing.
When you say intimidation, I don't always trust that phrase. I mean, I've seen some of the phrases they've said. Like they said somebody, a Sellafield worker, was sharing racially insightful or inflammatory posts, and they seem pretty tame to me.
Well, they have this strange thing now. They're saying one in, one out, and exactly as you said, they're turning around and saying, well, assuming somebody's there, we're going to put all these people in.
The two crimes don't match.
No,
okay?
you're absolutely right.
It doesn't make sense. You can't justify that as well, because it doesn't make sense if somebody has committed a serious crime.
Yes.
And obviously they want to get control of the riots. Those are two very different things.
And it's one of the reasons they started televising the sentencing of criminals, so people understand the justice system. Yes. And as I say, it's a normal tariff. There's a sentencing council.
We want to prevent people from rioting and causing mayhem and chaos, but we can't give the same sentence or even more for somebody who stabbed a child.
You're absolutely right.
To me, just doesn't make logical sense.
And that's why they're televising it, because the sentencing council make it a science to say these are the penalties.
Yeah.
You get, if it's aggravating, you get more. Yeah. If there's mitigation, you get less.
People that have committed serious murders and crimes and are still waiting to be sentenced,
yes.
and those people are going far up the list just because they caused, obviously, mayhem and chaos.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we've got to see where priorities lie.
The priority must be in communication, because if you tell people about it, it makes it much easier.
And for the police to be filming it and posting it on social media, it's got the feel of a communist show trial.
It's crazy.
Humiliation as well.
And they've gone to the other extreme. So what's happened now? They get criticised for this, so we're going to act really quickly on this. Yeah. And actually, all that does is accentuate, well, you didn't do anything here. Yeah. And you're continuing not to do things on this. You need to apply universality on that sort of principle. Justice is blind. It doesn't matter. That's what's supposed to happen accordingly.
What we're doing.
Be very logical and communicate what you're doing.
Yeah.
And Sky journalist Martin Brunt revealed how the people arrested and thrown in jail could have a target on their backs as well. Take a look at this.
And people are being told that if they do appear, whether they're pleading guilty or not guilty, they're very unlikely to get bail. And if they do end up in prison, somebody who told me, somebody who knows about these things, told me that, you know, any right-wing, far-right protester landing up in jail, well, you know, they can expect a pretty cold reception from what he says are Asian gangs inside prison who will be looking out for them.
That's chilling stuff. Now, I've been reliably informed that there is no two-tier policing. So when are Nick Lowles of Hope Not Hate and another MP who shared his post going to be arrested for sharing this inflammatory, dangerous hoax that far-right thugs were throwing acid at Muslim women? This was also shared by Labour MP Josh Fenton Glynn. The police had to step in to deny that this had happened. But astonishingly, Nick Lowles didn't delete this inflammatory claim. Yeah. Well, Andrew, also the thing with Nick, because he's a government advisor, he's part of this charity, Hope Not Hate, who pretend to be, you know, anti-fascist and pretend to be, in reality, they're going after reform candidates.
You're absolutely right.
But because, you know, they've got the ear of the government, they're seen as more credible than, you know, some nutter.
It is absolutely scandalous in the same way as you talk about an abuse of a position. And you must remember that the murder of the 3 girls and the riots that happened as a result of it was spread as a result of misinformation. So when there's misinformation that causes these riots, already a tinderbox.
Were also spread by just the information, just the fact that these girls had been killed and other girls had been targeted. I think
and consistently have been so after this.
Absolutely.
Women and children are getting stabbed pretty much every day.
And we just saw yesterday at the Diversity Festival in Germany another spate of stabbing.
And it is awful. And it's inflammatory. So what's happening, that's why I would say the responsibility in the media as well, across the board, is to try and shine more light and less heat on this. Because it is appalling what's going on. It's a tinderbox at the moment, and lots of divisions are spilling out accordingly.
But we also need to make sure that the public do have awareness, and we need to have knowledge, but correct information.
And get rid of the fear. Get rid of the fear on the streets. People are scared.
I think people need to be fearful until the government deals with it.
And as a woman, I am extremely uncomfortable at certain parts of, you know, London, and when I go out, and I have to be very mindful of where I go.
Absolutely.
Because people target young women like me, children. We're just getting stabbed every single part of the UK at the moment.
It is appalling.
It's devastating.
And you're so right, Precious. And what people need to do is the police need to act very, very quickly. They need to deal with the real troublemakers, because actually we're a really wonderful society. Let's get back to the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom has never been more divided.
Well, that's the serious part of the show out of the way.
Thank you. That was the comedy.
We're going to assess the week's winners and losers in this week's Cursed or Blessed. See you in a couple of minutes. Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. It's now time to go through the winners and losers of the week. What is a woman? The debate rages on. This week, a court in Australia decided that this person is 100% a woman. This is Roxanne Tickle, a transgender woman, believe it or not, who sued the social media platform Giggle for Girls, which is aimed at women, claiming that she was unlawfully barred from using the app in 2021 after the firm and its CEO, Sal Grover, said she was a man. Does this look like a man to you? No, Roxanne Tickle is the most womanly woman who ever womaned, stunning and brave in every way, from the male pattern baldness to the stubble. Now, Crocodile Dundee had a much simpler test to see if someone's a woman or not, but this test tickle case rested on the Sex Discrimination Act and has far-reaching ramifications around the world for female-only spaces being forced to allow access to women like me. Interestingly, barrister Zelly Heger told the court that sex was no longer defined in the Sex Discrimination Act, but that importantly, the Act recognises that a person's sex is not limited to their actual biological sex. So gender identity, rather than biological reality, is defining what a woman is in Australia.
A man. So there should be safe spaces for women, just like there's safe spaces for men.
And I feel like this is actually going to hurt genuine trans people who don't want to, you know, take part in some, you know, a female-only space. And this is going to bring heat on them. And they could have put effort into their transition. They pass.
And I don't know any lesbian that actually wants to. Personally, I'm bisexual, so I'm very open about that. But I don't define myself by my sexuality. And I'm in a relationship with a male. But at the end of the day, everyone should be able to choose. And I don't know many lesbians that want to date somebody who used to be a man. I don't know any lesbian that wants to date that.
Yeah. It's extraordinary, this situation. I've done a deep dive into this website. It's now closed down. No, not for that. But in terms of the people behind it and things like that, they had an AI system which you had to put up a selfie, and they would work out if you're female based on your photo.
Right.
So what happened to this particular tickle without the tackle? I'm not sure. But what happened to behave? What happened with this particular case? They said because she did not look sufficiently female, which is why it didn't go through. Yeah. But it raises a really important point.
But that's really bad, because then if that person had transitioned into a photograph that was passable, then that's the problem. That's the problem. Individual to choose, because then that is not allowing them to have that choice. And so what happened? There was a big backlash on Mumsnet and things like that. They were saying that the particular founder was TWAW. That trans women are women, so that's what they were saying. They understand, they were pro that. What happened, though, this particular site is for people and girls to discuss in safety things like period pains and PCOSs, polycystic ovarian syndrome and things like that. And they need to make sure it's safe. Yes,
and I think it's absolutely trans rights and respect all of those, but these are supposed to be safe places for women, and sort that out.
There's a lot of transgender women also that I know in the entertainment industry.
Yes.
And they wouldn't even bother going on an app like this, because they don't want to invade someone's space and respect for themselves.
Yes. And they're going to get the backlash. They're going to get, you know, any sort of negative feeling that's drummed up from
They're not interested whatsoever. Most transgender women I know date men.
Yes. Yeah. And we all, it's an industry which is full of trans people, but more than ever, and that's fantastic. It's about respect. But it's respect for everybody. Honesty. Respect for everybody in the conversation. Yeah. And when a site is for people who are born women, who have periods and have various things, because you have ovaries and wounds and things like that, it has to be a safe space. So whilst we absolutely respect people and trans rights, the person who wants to go there who's trans is so wrong on this, and they shouldn't be doing it.
Well, I think that their intentions are not what it's supposed to be, because, you know, we've had this issue before where there's a transgender female going into a gym. Yeah. And we all know that person is not there for the right reason.
And if women feel threatened, you're right, it's such an important point. Women feel threatened as a result of this. Why would they do it?
And we've seen it in the Olympics as well. So, you know, there's a transgender weightlifter, Laurel Hubbard. And, you know, going through male puberty, you know, gives you certain advantages. You get stronger bone structure, stronger muscles. It's easier to parallel park
the component is at a
stadium. So, you know, thanks. Anyway, we've got the Democratic National Convention has just rolled to a close, confirming Vice President Kamala Harris and her running mate Tim Walz as the official Democrat candidate for the upcoming election. The Republican convention saw muscular speeches from men like Hulk Hogan. Nobody's got more testosterone than him, although it might come in a little glass vial from a dodgy doctor. Left-wing men are mocked for being low testosterone soy boys, but the left seem to see that as a bonus, as CNN anchor Dana Bash reveals.
But they are doing so in trying to put forward male figures, Tim Walz being one of them, Doug Emhoff last night, who can speak to men out there who might not be the sort of testosterone-laden, you know, gun-toting kind of guy who wants to listen to Hulk Hogan and the kind of players that came out at the RNC, or might want to listen to that, but also, in addition, understand that it's okay in 2024 to be a man comfortable in his own skin who supports a woman.
It's okay to be a man comfortable in his own skin, being a low testosterone soy boy. And ironically, given that Kamala Harris has condemned Trump's border wall, kept the American border open and let in millions of people without ID, anti-Israel protests around the Democrat convention meant they erected a very secure border, and you needed ID to get through it. As the Washington Post put it, fences, police and IDs for the DNC, but not for thee. Now, Precious, do you like your men to have low testosterone?
What a great question. I love it. Soy boy.
We all know I don't. I always date a big, you know, sturdy, handsome man.
Yeah.
No, well, Hulk Hogan is obviously not the kind of person I would date. His opinions...
He loves you, though, Precious. It's got to be good.
He doesn't sit well with me, the things that come out of his mouth. But, no, honestly, guys, I mean, being a woman of colour, I know what this must feel feel like for Kamala Harris, right?
Yeah.
She is definitely trying to make a point that anybody that has the right frame of mind, who knows the policies that she's having, they should vote for her. It doesn't matter if you're male or female or other. At the moment, it's about the policies, and I think that we are losing sight of what that is.
Is it about the policies?
It is.
Well, because I think, you know, well, Andrew, you...
I'll tell you, so because in 2013, every Senate Democrat voted for a bill that required construction of 700 miles of a wall.
Yeah.
Very interesting. That suddenly became a Trump thing. Everybody, Kamala, that's how you pronounce her name, because she spent, in 2016, she spent a fortune, including getting little kids, to say, this is how you pronounce my name. Nobody in television gets it right. It's Kamala, La is how you pronounce it.
As in communist.
As in commie, absolutely. You're absolutely right. But you're right. It should be about policy, not about people.
Yes.
It would be wonderful to break the glass ceiling, have the first woman president, first woman of colour, first Indian, all that sort of stuff is what she claims. It shouldn't be about that. It should be about the policies and getting the right things for the people. We should, in the same ways justice should be blind, it should be blind in politics as well.
OK, well, the Democrat convention had a bus parked outside giving abortions and vasectomies. Apparently the vasectomy slots filled up quick. I'm just amazed anybody had any testicles to stick. There it is, there's the bus there. You can get more. You can get more of a classic sort of left-wing thing than an abortion bus right outside your...
Snip, snip, Bob's your auntie.
Yeah.
I mean, is that what they're peddling? It's going to be good.
They're going to have an amazing Olympics team. Anyway, there was some good news for fans of free speech and free thought this week. A Christian charity volunteer was awarded £13,000 compensation and an apology from police after being arrested for praying silently outside an abortion clinic. That's right, silently praying. She was arrested for thinking the wrong thoughts in her own mind. Here's some footage of her arrest.
That's what I stood. Is you standing here part of the protest?
No, I'm not protesting.
Are you praying?
I might be praying in my head.
So I'll ask you once more, will you voluntarily come with us now to the police station for me to ask you some questions about today and other days where there are allegations that you've broken public space of protection?
If I've got a choice, then no.
OK, well then you're under arrest on suspicion of failing to comply.
I suppose she could have avoided arrest by lying to the police that she was just thinking about what she was going to have for dinner. But I guess a good Christian doesn't want to lie to the police like that. Despite West Midlands police giving her thousands of pounds to settle her claim for 2 wrongful arrests and false imprisonments and for a breach of her human rights, the government is still considering banning silent prayer outside abortion clinics. Now, I believe that women should have access to abortion, but I also think that people should be allowed to think what they want in their own heads. Call me controversial. Precious, I heard you saying that you found her annoying.
No, honestly, I thought that was a really annoying thing to do. How dare she stand outside?
People for being annoying.
No, seriously, that's intimidation. She is trying to intimidate those... No, she's trying to stop people. Do you know, as a woman, what it must take for that individual to walk into a place like that?
Are you saying I'm not a woman?
Leo, listen, honestly, you don't know what it takes for a woman to go into a place like that and to have that woman standing outside with all her judgment and all her, you know, this is bad and against my religion.
But it is bad.
It's not.
No, I'm sorry, but it is. I mean, I think women should have access to it.
She should definitely have a choice.
But we can't pretend that it's like some wonderful thing, and we can't pretend that everybody's going to think it's wonderful. Leo, let me say this. I'm
not saying for women to use it as a form of contraception, but if they need it, they should be able to go in there without judgment of somebody standing outside trying to intimidate them and just being very annoying.
And I think that's... And so Precious makes a brilliant point, and we're conflating 2 different arguments. You're absolutely right. People should not... They get horrendous situations where people find themselves in those clinics.
Exactly.
What this was a ban on protests within a certain radius. So it wasn't the headline that everybody wants, oh, this is about thought. This is what they said. They asked her, is this a protest? And if it were a protest, she would be in breach of the ban, which is why they went for her.
How can it be a protest? She's just standing doing nothing.
Well, no, saying that she's got a history of this, apparently. A history of protest, exactly.
Leo, she was doing it pretty much every day. She didn't just stop by and went, let me just hang out here.
She's got a hobby.
She did it every single day for however long.
And that was the reason, Precious is quite right, that's the reason for banning people from being certain clothes. That's the perspective. The danger, however, is my mate Elon Musk, I had him, his father was on my show yesterday, fantastic. fantastic stuff. Great show. It was amazing. Have a look. Available on YouTube. Watch carefully, though, because Neuralink is the new thing that Elon's doing, which effectively you have something put in your brain, well, telepathy. So if you start arresting people for the thoughts, I know what you're thinking now, I will shut up. But if you start arresting for them, this is such a slippery slope, and we have to call it out.
Yeah, and also, for a slippery slope, I think we're nearly at the bottom. Next on the Saturday Night Showdown, it's Culture Corner. We'll have the best jokes from the Edinburgh Fringe.
Ah, the humour at last.
And crazy things your taxes are funding overseas. See you in a couple of minutes. Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. Now, the Edinburgh Fringe is in full swing with comedians moaning about low audience figures. Apparently, the average is just 6. And high costs, with flats costing thousands to rent in Edinburgh for the festival. And my Facebook feed is full of comics complaining about greedy landlords. Although it's funny that once the Fringe is over, rents go down again. I don't know if this is because the landlords forget how to be greedy. Anyway, nobody cares about these moaning artists. Let's have a look at some of the best jokes from the Edinburgh Fringe instead, as voted for by the public. Now, we'll start with number 1. Mark Simmons won with, "I was going to sail around the globe in the world's smallest ship, but I bottled it."
Hey!
Mark said he was really chuffed with the win. "I needed some good news, as I was just fired from my job marking exam papers. I can't understand it. I always gave 110%. Now, Mark is an absolute master of the one-liner. I'm glad he's won. Do you like those?
No.
Okay, well,
I didn't get that.
This is going to be a tough segment.
It is a tough segment. Let's get back to abortion.
You're a comedy maestro.
I am. I used to be the chair of the Montreux Comedy Festival. You know, people used to flock in from around the world. My favourite, however, from 2019, if I can do it, I don't going to do the other ones, was somebody called Olaf Falafel, who said, "I keep randomly shouting out broccoli and cauliflower. I think I must have florets." Oh, you know, that was the winner last time. It was good stuff.
Olaf is in this list as well.
Oh, is he? Oh, go for it.
But number 2, we've got Alex Snook, who had this one. "I've been taking salsa lessons for months, but I just don't feel like I'm progressing. It's just 1 step forward, 2 steps back." You like that?
No, that was funny.
That was only number 2. You're going to like them more as they go down the list. They're supposed to be getting worse.
That was good. I like that one.
Well, Alex Kitson came 3rd with this. "Ate horse at a restaurant once. Wasn't great. Starter was all right, but the main was..."
Hey!
Yeah, that's cheeky.
A stable one. There should be a boom tish at the end of each of these, shouldn't there?
Comedy, isn't it? It's very just tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
I think there's nothing worse than dissecting comedy and saying, well, we're going to discuss this one-liner now. It's a really tough gig. I love it within a comedy thing. Yeah.
That's exactly what we're going to do for every single one of these. And let me tell you, I was the UK pun champion in 2015.
Oh, were you? What was your pun? I bet that's better. Go on.
I had Marvin Gaye used to keep his sheep in my vineyard.
Yeah.
He'd heard it through the grapevine.
Come on! Every year. I'm going to start a campaign every year and give it back to Leo. It's got to be good.
That's good.
Well, number 4 on this list from the Edinburgh Fringe.
Yes.
Fringe veteran.
Oh, I would like Arthur. Yeah.
I had this. "I sailed through my driving test. That's why I failed it."
Hey, you see, Arthur's good.
That's some of the most forced laughter I've ever heard.
Well, yeah, well done, Pressure. We won't use that in the...
Well, Mark Simmons. Mark Simmons also, he took the number 1 spot, but he was also here at number 5.
Yes.
This one. He said, "I love the Olympics. My friend and I invented a new type of relay baton. Well, he came up with the idea, and I ran with it."
Come on, these are good. Boom tish.
This is not my kind of comedy.
That's not your kind of stuff. What do you like?
I know, it's funny, but it's like, they're a little bit cheesy, though.
No, well, they're totally cheesy. They're not a little bit cheesy. It is the fromage.
Barbecues. I mean, that's the kind of stuff it sounds like.
It is the sort of stuff. But this is what they are. Edinburgh's all about drunk people. But listen, if you're at a late-night club and that sort of stuff, and this is in amongst the whole context of loads of gags, they'd do that.
It's very safe.
It is safe.
Comedy now is very, very...
Too safe.
Well, this
so those little jokes, they've been very safe, so they can...
And how do they judge this? I'm trying to remember how people do it.
There's public vote, so that there's a short list presented. I think Dave, the TV channel.
It was Dave beforehand, yeah.
And they give a short list of these jokes that have been...
and they test people in the street, yes.
Essentially submitted by the comedian's PR.
Yes.
So even comedians comedians who don't really do these kinds of jokes will write some of these jokes to get in the list. And some of these jokes will
so the
these are critics.
these are. Well, no, it's the public.
Then it's
the public.
vote.
So the secret of doing is what they do when they do these little tests of fizzy drinks. You do one which is really hot and horrible and one which is nice and nice. You say, which one do you prefer? I prefer the iced ones. So what you do, get people who can tell the jokes brilliantly to do your poll, and you bribe them to win the top spot. I think that's what happened.
And also, did you know when they do the Pepsi versus...
Yes. I didn't mention the brand. I didn't mention the brand.
Well, Pepsi wins, apparently, because it's sweeter.
Yes.
So in small quantities, it tastes nicer. But then...
Yes.
Sorry, if you're going to drink...
And that's why it's like any pollsters. You ask those questions, the more extreme. Do you love our Prime Minister immensely, or do we love him just a little bit, but we love him anyway? Or, you know, it's that sort of stuff. How you ask the questions is the same. I'm sure it's when you ask the pollsters do it, if they tell the jokes in a good way, that's going to get the better vote.
I do not love my Prime Minister immensely. And number 6, we have Olaf Falafel.
Ah, the winner.
Great guy, I know him. I saw him on the tube not long ago. Who's
he pays well then, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's an artist and a very silly... He's an artist and a very silly man. And if you're at the Fringe, take your kids to his amazing show.
Yes.
Well, he had this one. He said, my dad used to say to me, pints, gallons, litres, which I think speaks volumes.
Very good. It's a brilliant line, isn't it? It's a very good line.
Pass the precious test.
I did not, nothing passes the precious test.
We need a pint or two to get through these jokes. Yeah, definitely.
We've got a woman next, so let's...
Oh, come on, let's have a woman. Chelsea Burke. Oh, she's great.
Chelsea Birkby made the list with this. British etiquette is confusing. Why is it highbrow to look at boobs in an art gallery, but lowbrow when I get them out in spoons?
And that's okay for a woman to say, isn't it? For a woman to
say that, it's funny.
If a man said it, how would you react, do you think?
I'm open to stuff like that.
Okay.
I have no judgment on those things. It's the delivery and the space that we're saying is in. That's how, I mean, I feel like everyone should be... That's what I said before, is that comedy has become very, very safe. And there's a lot of things that people want to say, but they just can't say it.
This list is going to be safe because this has to be circulated to all the people.
It's the people, the public. It's right. It's right.
Anyway, number 8, Zoe Coombs-Marr had this. My partner told me that she'd never seen the film Gaslight. I told her that she definitely had.
It's a clever gag. I love a clever gag. It's got to be good.
It's clever. Clever is one word for it. Number 9 is Sarah Keyworth with this one. I'm an extremely emotionally needy non-binary person. My pronouns are there.
That's funny. That is a good line. We're seeing unanimous. That's our winner.
The fact that we're having to deal with that in society now.
It is good.
Hilarious.
Although I prefer the chocolate one, which is the chocolate gag about pronouns is her, she. I think that's a brilliant one as well.
That's probably better. You'll probably get top of the list next.
Thank you.
And last on the list, at number 10, was Sophie Duker with this. Keir Starmer looks like an AI-generated image of a substitute teacher.
She's right. That's true.
Is she funny?
Neither
of you laugh.
Was that the end of the joke?
That was the end of the joke.
But that sounded more like a statement than a joke.
Yeah, it did sound more like a statement than a joke.
It was.
I agree with her. He does.
But Maasai, just one final one. Maasai Graham in 2022 was a good gag. I tried to steal spaghetti from the shop, but the female guard saw me and I couldn't get pasta.
Yeah.
See, that was a winner. See, that's a nice... It's working on that sort of thing. General public, if you appeal to the lowest common denominator, a good word gag is going to win, like Leo's one, which I think should come back every year. And that should be the challenge. Challenge Leo for the title.
Well, Maasai's a great guy. He had some brilliant ones. I came last on the list one year with this one. He said he wanted to sit in my pumpkin. He butternut squash it.
I like that. Come on.
No, that's
good.
I like butternut squash.
Sadly, that's all the time we have for this section. Oh, wait, no.
There's more in this section.
Oh, sorry. I thought we'd come...
Thank goodness you ad-libbed. Thank goodness there's not an auto cue or anything.
We're told Britain has had years of austerity.
Yes.
The government has no money, so we'll have to hike taxes. But what are our taxes being spent on? This week it was revealed that British foreign aid is paying for Chinese opera, cycle lanes in Mexico, and road schemes in Malaysia. And many of the places Britain is sending overseas aid to are much richer than swathes of Britain. I always imagined foreign aid is spent on starving children in some war-torn part of Africa, not in the salaries of Chinese opera singers. There's a saying that foreign aid is taxing poor people in this country to give to rich people in another country, and it looks like it's true. Now, is this fair when British people have to wait weeks to see a doctor, Precious, that we're taxing our citizens in Britain, our hard-working citizens, some of whom aren't that rich, and sending that money to the Chinese opera?
It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, obviously, we should be doing some support here for the people that are living on the streets and are homeless, and that is our concern, and helping the people that are working hard and paying taxes. I think sending the money to, say, someone like China, who has such an amazing... There is parts of China that are so wealthy. So I'm wondering as to why the parts of China that are wealthy are not supporting the other parts that aren't, instead of us financing them.
Well, Andrew,
or
do you think
why don't they get the US to pay back what they owe, and then perhaps China wouldn't have to ask for any support?
I don't think the US owes China... Oh, it probably does.
Oh, my God, the US owes... Let me get the number. What are you talking about? They own billions of dollars to China.
It's very good. What it is, however, it's Robin Hood in reverse, isn't it? And when you hear... I always say charity begins at home. And we have so many things we need to look at. Not in your home, I love it. You're spending your winnings from the Edinburgh Festival, I love it. No, the reality is this, is that also these statistics, lies, damn lies and statistics, they're talking about the average per capita. Now, obviously, they have some countries where have incredibly rich people, but there are still means there's lots of poor people who need that support. And some of those projects are for those poor people.
But do you think this is soft diplomacy? Because we're, you know, doing this to get influence with China?
Of course we are. I mean, money talks, and absolutely.
There must be only a reason why we're doing it. There must be an incentive, because there's no way that we should be giving them money when they have the money there.
Absolutely. Well, next on the Saturday Night Showdown, we've got Clown World and the proud owner of a new Tesla who's fitted a machine gun. See you in a couple of minutes.
Hey, I'm here. I'm looking forward to this one.
Anyway, Ramzan Kadyrov, the brutal Chechen warlord who fought against Putin before making peace with him, he's now one of Putin's staunchest allies, claimed this week to have been given a Cybertruck by Elon Musk. You can see him driving it here. And he's installed a massive machine gun on the top of it. Look at that. There he is, looking like someone from Mad Max. Now, Elon has denied giving Kadyrov the truck, and it does seem incredibly unlikely that he would do so. And here's footage of Kadyrov's son firing two gold-plated PKM machine guns. I mean, hey, if you're a despotic dictator, why not have gold-plated machine guns and fire two at once?
Awful.
Now,
I wouldn't want to be the camera person taking that footage, though, in front of him. What's that about? Can you just get a quick selfie of this?
They worry about health and safety too much.
I don't think they do. And it makes all the difference being gold-plated, doesn't it? I mean, absolutely. The man with the golden gun, they want this. But no, Elon was quite clear in his X response, and I love Elon. As I said, I was interviewing his dad the other day. It was always fun. But he has a brilliant sense of humour. But he used a word which would get you into Ofcom and not compliance. He used that sort of the R word, as we call it. And this has been used in all sorts of things, going back to Big Brother and so on and so forth. But Elon was quite clear that he wouldn't have supplied. He wouldn't have given it to him. And why would they need it?
Association with somebody.
He wouldn't want the association.
And at the end of the day, if you've gotten a Cybertruck and it's from Elon Musk, you would have had a selfie with him. I mean, so
he would have done. You would have been there with.
Would have been taking the selfie, just like
and he wouldn't refuse because of the golden guns pointing at him. It'd be awful.
Elon has been helping Ukraine with his Starlink satellite
so why would he do that?
Now, the Ukraine war has slipped off some people's radar, but it's seeing a lot of change at the moment. Ukraine has invaded Russia's Kearse region and seized over 1,000 square kilometres, and its drone attacks against strategic Russian assets, such as oil refineries, have been very effective. The war has forced Ukraine to become a world leader in drone technology. Not just in the air, its naval drones have destroyed much of Russia's Black Sea fleet. And they're also deploying ground-based drones, such as this robot dog that you can see on screen now, which is straight out of Black Mirror and extremely terrifying. I don't like the way it can jump. Precious.
No. So that's an iRobot situation waiting to happen. Those things look like they were going to take over.
And they are petrifying. I went to a conference very recently where I had one of these controls, and they are petrifying. And once you get the control, they look, because they don't have proper faces, but they will follow you. Black Mirror is that episode. And it will turn on you.
We all want the future to come. It's just how it's going to come, we're not too sure.
Yes.
Because I do want to have... Yes, I want a flying car.
The hoverboards are brilliant.
To be able to avoid traffic at all costs.
If
my Uber can go up into the air.
Well, when I was a kid, we used to hate the Daleks. The Daleks were really scary. The great thing is you could run upstairs because they couldn't, and I think that was the principle.
Brilliant panel tonight. Andrew, Eborn and Precious. Muir, I'll see you again next week. And don't forget headliners as well tonight at 11 p.m. And you can come and see me do comedy live in London on Friday in Hammersmith.
Don't miss that.
Info on my Twitter. So see you then, or see you next Saturday. Goodbye.
Bye.